to the world, George.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Friday. We are back with another show with the Arsenal Women Chat Show. We are doing another Gooner Stories. Thought they were a success last time, so why not? But this time, we've got a really, really special guest with Farah from the Arsenal Women Supporters Group. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me back. Good to be here.
Looking forward to this show. It's going to be, I think it'll be a really, really interesting one. Obviously, also we've got Dan as well. How you doing, mate?
All good. How we doing, guys? Looking forward to a nice long bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, definitely needed.
Definitely needed. Obviously, if you guys who are watching have any questions for Farah or in general, please put them in the comments, and just remember to hit that like button, share, and definitely subscribe to the channel. Like All Sports Bar Cafe in the North Bank and the Mr. Arsenal podcast. So we'll start off, Farah, like obviously from the beginning. How old was you, like, or how did your Arsenal journey start following the girls?
Following the women. So I used to play a little bit when I was younger. I started playing from maybe the age of maybe five or six in school. And I actually got signed from school for a local team. I kind of started. I sort of grew up just playing in the cages and on the streets. And when I got signed, it wasn't back in the day. I say back in the day. I'm 31, so we're talking almost maybe 15 years ago. Very different. So it was sort of development league, just still playing with the boys. There was no girls playing anywhere. So I still played in the streets, and I loved it. It was incredible. And kind of just went up the ranks. And then I had an opportunity. I got scouted for a London team, and it probably went from a hobby to maybe thinking about a few things. But it was never going to be. I mean, I had no intention of being a footballer or anything. It definitely wasn't the environment that I felt like I belonged in. But also, sort of a normal story for a South Asian girl. Once you get to a certain age, your family are not too keen. It has to stop. There's so many cultural blocks and so many things that were involved in it at the time. So I stopped playing when I was about 15. When I got to about 14, 15, that's when I found out that Arsenal Women had a team, and it was I didn't really know anything about women's football. It just sort of been men's, and I was really, really intrigued. But I guess I didn't know anything about them. I guess you couldn't watch women's football unless it was the FA Cup every year, which Arsenal were basically in every year. But other than that, I didn't really know too much about them. And then after I stopped playing, I became a bit more of an intrigued fan of the women's game. And I was probably about 17 when I went to my first game. So around maybe 2016-17 season, I went to Bournemouth for the first time. And I think my first game that I watched, there probably wasn't even about less than 100 people, I would say. But I think it was against Donny Bells, if I remember correctly. I want to say it was 2 goals by Jordan Nobbs and Chloe Kelly, actually. So that's from memory. And that was my first Arsenal women's game. And just on and off after that, just kind of went when I did. I went to uni in North London, so it was it was kind of just my thing that I did. None of my friends, no one in my family. I don't come from a sporting family, so no one was into the women's game at all, let alone kind of coming with me. So it was just something that I did on and off for years, maybe 1 or 2 games here and there when I could. It kind of just started from there, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to say, obviously, if you have a South Asian background, have you noticed a massive difference, say for younger people, like from a South Asian heritage and background now to back, say, well, obviously it's not long because I'm around the same age as you, but have you noticed a big massive difference, like even socially, like between say 15 years ago to now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely up and coming talent coming up the ranks for sure, way more than than I saw when I was playing. I definitely was the minority. I definitely was on my own with it. I think it's definitely making strides forward. Would I say that we're completely where we need to be? Absolutely not. I think you might have maybe a handful of young girls coming up the academy route in the championship, and I think maybe someone at United now. But I think it's definitely improved. But I think we're still very, very far behind where I think it should be, because the talent is out there. And I think that's that could go into a whole nother conversation, to be fair. But it's definitely improved for sure. But I think, if we're going to see a lot more diversity in the women's game, it starts from those pathways, it starts from grassroots, but there's so much into that, the right coaches, the right kind of mentorship, the right people in those roles, scouts, opportunities and programs to help the South Asian community, because it's not just it's not as black and white as it could be for someone outside of the community. There's always you do have those cultural blockers. You do have family that think maybe in a different way, maybe more in a traditional mindset. That doesn't go for everybody, but there has to be. I think there's a lot more education around that needs to be done and talked about. And I guess that's what we're trying to do as much as we can. Now within the supporters club and within our community as well, we definitely want to showcase a lot more of that, a lot more diversity through our fan base. Because I think on one part of our community, we are very inclusive. There's a certain element of inclusivity that's amazing within our fan base, which is great. But there's also a whole nother section that I think everybody's lacking in. So but that's more kind of, not that people don't want it, it's more of an educational piece. It's more about the conversation, continuing that, and just it also takes someone to kind of put themselves out there. And there's so many amazing people doing great things for the changes, and so we can continue to obviously grow the game. So I think it's definitely on the up. There are so many amazing platforms and amazing activists and journalists and amazing people doing, trying to really showcase the talent all around. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, especially with the inclusiveness as well. Like, I look at it from a different aspect with my disability. Like, and if I'm honest, I've never felt like unwelcome with when it comes to the women. But there is still a lot that can be done. Like, but I definitely agree. I think it's education as well. Because let's be honest, if you've not come across, say, like with a disability, some people have not come across people with disabilities, so they don't know how to react. So I know that sounds a bit of an easy excuse, but it's not. So no, and I do agree. I think with the supporters club, they're doing absolutely amazing work with helping with the inclusiveness and different aspects of that. But like you say, it's never completely ticking all the boxes, is it? Like, not everything's done.
It's a process. It's a process, for sure.
Trust the process. Dan, do you have any questions or any comments?
So do you think like the clubs are doing enough to sort of help support and develop? Do you think that they need to reach out a little bit more, maybe run sort of specific soccer schools in different communities and sort of reach out a little bit more?
I think I think it's sort of I think it's if you look at the academy and you look at how where the girls are training, where the guys are training. I think the girls are in Hertfordshire. I think the boys are in Walthamstow, and I think kind of that inner city. I think just sort of being able to get there is one thing, and that's that's for everything. But to be able to get girls to training from all areas, that's where the investment is. That's where the money needs to be done. And if you know young boys in the academy, I think they're I think they're privileged. You know, they get, I think they get cabs there. You know, they'll be cabbed there and there and from training. But with the girls, obviously, it's a different thing. So, I think, you know, with the likes of Arsenal though, and Arsenal in the community and sort of what they've been doing, I think they definitely are leading the way, like in many aspects, to really kind of give everyone that opportunity. But I think once you get the opportunity, it's also when girls get to a certain age. You know, and I think we're also going through a generational change as well. So hopefully now, you know, my generation are having families and stuff, and hopefully that will change. The mentality will change, you know, kind of going forward, and going through that change. I think we'll see some big strides. But it's also kind of, I think clubs and even sort of grassroots clubs as well, just understanding where things, the support that a South Asian girl might need, rather, you know, if you compare it to a white girl or someone outside of the community, and it could be family, it could be travel, it could be religious reasons, it could be loads of stuff that just might stop someone from just pushing, and maybe stop playing when they get to a certain age. And it's always that 12-13 age group, and you see a bit of a decrease. So I think it's a little bit of everything, but I think, you know, I can only kind of speak on what I've seen, and I think Arsenal are doing some great things. So, yeah, and like I said, we are going through a generational change. So, you know, and that change is not just, you know, diversity in terms of different ethnic minorities in the game, but I mean diversity as a whole and the inclusivity piece. I think as we do see that change, hopefully we will see improvements, and we'll see, I guess, a growth in the game that visibly we'll be able to see the difference. Because obviously right now, you know, we live in the most diverse country, but you know, our national sport doesn't really showcase it, not our women's team anyway. So I think I think as we are going through a bit of a change, we will start to see some improvements, and definitely see, you know, just kind of put it out there, and the game should be for everybody, you know, no matter where you're from and how you've been brought up, and you know, everyone should feel like they belong, but with experience. And even in, you know, not just playing, even outside of playing, I think that sense of belonging has always been an issue. And it's I think, you know, what's happened over the last few weeks in this country as well, I think that sense of belonging, and, you know, just making sure that we do have people on our side, because it's a community that does fall behind a little bit. People forget about the South Asian community a lot, and we're kind of just pushed to the back. We don't get as much acknowledgement if we're not shouting about it from the community. So yeah, I guess my role and what I'm trying to do this year with the supporters club is yeah, that's a big part of what I want to push, and I have been pushing. And yeah, hopefully have, you know, future continue the conversations with the club as well, but it's all a process. You can't expect things to change overnight, but you know, I'll definitely continue pushing that conversation for sure.
Yeah. Is it all sort of too simple really for there to be a sort of breakout men's or women's star in the game, that like a coach or something like that there is that role model? Is that, say, just like a bit of a too simple solution really, or is it just, I know it's obviously it's got to, you know, naturally develop, but is that
I think I mean, obviously these girls have, you know, completely girls playing now, you know, they're role models. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, I guess if they don't see someone with the same color of skin, they have so many women now that they look up to within the game, you know, like that they've got that. We didn't have that. You know, I think the only person sort of my age group had to look up to was a fictional character from Bender Like Beckham. That was our ultimate kind of role model, you know, and it wasn't a real person, but that's all we had growing up. But now, you know, I think the Lionesses, female footballers, whatever club that you support, I think these girls have such strong role models, and you know, they're so inspired by these women and what they're doing. Yeah, I hopefully that drives them to continue to fight. And you know, anyone that I come into conversation with, you know, you have to be honest, it's not going to be easy. There's always going to be a battle, there's always going to be a fight on your hands, there's always going to be something that comes into question, because the game is also learning. You know, we haven't had a breakout star in our top in the top league just yet to to have her as the poster girl, you know, and hopefully that's coming, and I'm sure we're not too far away from that. But you know, if you put it into reality, realistically, how far are we to have the first South Asian lioness? I still think we're 5-10 years away from that, if that was, you know, ever going to be a possibility. So, you know, it is moving, and it is, you know, like I said, this is not, I don't want it to be too negative about it, but it is a reality, and it's something that I've learned a lot over the last, I would say, 6 months or so, like just really driving this. I've learned so much about, you know, how things work and what people want to back and what people want to acknowledge. And there could be reasons why they don't want to get involved or have those conversations. And it could be higher up than us. And there's so many things that I've sort of freshly learned when pushing this and having conversations with third parties. So, yeah, it's been interesting. But, yeah, I do think the reality of it is it's a community that gets left behind a little bit, in my opinion.
Yes, no, it's really interesting stuff. Thank you for that, Farah. Do we have any comments, Dan?
No, just a few comments from people just enjoying the show so far, but no other questions at the moment. Yeah, please do send in your questions. So if you've got any questions for the show,
just remember those watching, please hit that subscribe button, and like it's been said, to utilize the chat. Obviously, that's quite important for us. So please do that. Going back to Arsenal stuff, what you're saying, Farah, like the first game you went to, was it easy to still talk to the players like then, like sometimes it has been? So, you know, like when we've been to games before, like you'll see a couple of the players coming over.
Yeah.
Did that stuff still happen as like that, or was it a bit different?
I think when I first started going, I to be honest, I was always by myself. So I used to kind of like as soon as sort of the game was over, I used to kind of duck out and I used to just sort of go. But as the years went on, I think maybe if we're talking like 2000, I don't know, maybe 18-19 season or that sort of time, yeah, for sure. I think you know, everybody was there to enjoy the game, and then after the game, you know, players were, you know, visibly just going around, it was very organic. It was very natural. You know, I don't think anyone was standing around looking for anything. I think it was just quite natural. It just sort of happened. And obviously, you know, I guess players would recognize people because they'd see them before, and, you know, the crowds weren't huge. So it was very easy to kind of navigate around Boreham Wood. So, yeah, it was definitely easier. I mean, like I said, I only up until I started kind of working with all of you guys, and when we started the red and white and all of that, it was just something that I did on my own. I probably took my dad once, but yeah, he's a United supporter, so, you know, it doesn't really count. But yeah, other than that, I was I was just sort of in and out really, and yeah, I wasn't every gamer or anything. It's just anytime I could, I would go. But also back in the day as well, you could get a ticket like when you get there. So you just kind of figure it out on the day. But yeah, I think it was a lot easier. That I have to say that 2018-19 era was probably the best for me. Like, it was probably the best. Obviously, we won the league in 2019, but I think that was just so amazing. Obviously, I love what's happening now, but I do have some great memories of sort of that year, and it was just, the crowds were getting bigger. It was good, but it was just something different about that year, you know. It was great. I did go to quite a few games that year as well.
There's a lot of good personalities in the team at that time, wasn't there? A lot of good characters.
Yeah, we had DVD. What a character! Like, DVD was sort of in her element at that time, and obviously Viv had just signed that year, and obviously we want Viv coming into the league that year, and just, I think she just changed the WSL that year. Like, she was doing things we had never seen before, and she just lit up. I think she just took Arsenal back to kind of their winning ways, because you know, we were winning everything, and then it obviously, you know, stopped, and then we won the league, and then yeah, there was just a massive shift. But yeah, some amazing characters in that season. So yeah, but yeah, the conversations and meeting people, you know, you didn't really have people kind of waiting and queuing to get everything signed. It was just quite natural. You could tell players knew people, so yeah, it was quite organic, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Like, because when I first started going, it was quite organic. Obviously, I was kind of glad you said about your favourite. Like there was a lot of memories. Could you, if I know it's probably a hard one in that at that time, could you pick like a favourite or a top memory from you being as an Arsenal fan? I assume it'd be in that sort of that time.
Yeah, I think one of the first game, and sort of the first person that I guess what drew me to Arsenal. I didn't have any expectations going to the game. I was just really curious, and I was very lucky to watch Yanks play, and Rachel Yankee, and I think that was the player for me that kind of, was like I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I was like, wow, these women are class. I didn't even know this team really even existed. I'd heard names, but I'd never watched. But when I first saw her play, it was wow, to see representation, to see her doing what she was doing. And yeah, I guess that memory will always sort of live with me, because after that, I was just, okay, if I can't get to the game, I'm going to try and do everything I can to find out more about the team. And that first player that you remember, that made you start watching the women, and that was Yanks for me. And I think we've done incredible things obviously in the last few years with our staff and our group, but I think that will always stand out as like that switch in my head where I thought, yeah, you know what, women they're class, they can play, they're ballers. And yeah, she was that person for me, that player.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We'll move on to you were saying about like obviously the stuff what we've been doing recently, like with the supporters club and the red and white, and I think like how would you like what would like from going from when you went to now? Obviously, I know it's a bit of a silly statement to say, oh, there's a difference, because we all know there is.
Yeah.
Where like. Does it sometimes? When I look back when I first went, and that was a few years ago, I kind of think back of it a bit emotionally, because how big women's football's got, and I think we need to remember on shows when we do this, like there's supporters like Maria is like the first for being there, for being one of those fans that I think like she'll be looking down and be very, very proud of what the supporters club and the red and white are doing. Do you agree with that?
100%. And that's why anything that we do, and any major first that we have, any record that we break, she's not far from our minds at all. I mean, I wear her scarf every game. She's always in our minds. Our songbook is called the Maria Songbook for a reason. She's kind of the fan, and she's kind of an absolute legend. And yeah, I think she'd be incredibly proud of what we've done. And the way her memory sort of lives on is almost like she kind of paved the way for all of us, and we get to now take that to a whole nother level. And yeah, hopefully, I'm sure she'd be very, very proud of it, but she's never far away from our thoughts. And there's a great Conti Cup picture with all of us in the on that day, and that you see the Maria scarves, and you see that picture, and it's just like, we've come so far, but we think about her all the time, especially when we have our first sellout, back-to-back sellouts, everything that we do, and every song that we sing, any chant that we make now is she's the lady that paved the way. So yeah, no, honestly, she's never far away from our minds. I think we think about her all the time. So yeah, big part of it.
Yeah, I know it's obviously it's hard because we're looking at it from Arsenal supporters, which I completely get. But if you're looking at other teams, and like there's some teams, say like that play at, say, I'll just say example like Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, the Etihad, places like that. Would you like to see generally a lot more games played at those bigger stadiums on a more of a consistent basis, or do you think it's still important? It's still important to have the smaller stadiums.
I think if the women's game is going to grow and the club is going to invest in their women's team, I think playing in the bigger stadiums, I think is crucial. I think first of all, the girls deserve to play there. The women's football, where the WSL, what it's become, the competitiveness, the rivalries that we have, we deserve to play there. But you also have obviously the business side of it, and the financial side of putting a game on at a stadium. So, for example, if the Emirates has to have, I think it's like a minimum of 40,000 people in the stadium for the club to make money, to profit from it. So that is also in people's mindsets. Also with us, we are leading the way. We are taking numbers away from home massively. So then it's a decision of, do you want 3,000 Arsenal fans coming to one of the biggest games of the season against Man City at the Etihad, and maybe outdoing them, and bringing that noise? And would that be a hindrance? Would that be a benefit to City? And that's the other side of what clubs are going to look at as well. But I think, we 100% we have to, because then we become the victims of our own success, because people, if we don't play in the big stadiums, we'll have a certain number of away tickets. Our fans, potentially, realistically, this year, people might miss out on away games because that away allocation, if we're not playing in the big stadiums, just won't be enough for us. And then we will have issues like we had last year where, obviously people then are forced to buy from, I guess, home tickets, which we don't want. People have fought really, really hard over the years for away sections, and I think we have to stick to that. But yeah, we would love to see it. But I have to say, like, obviously I don't know the ins and outs, but I really hope, for example, like Brighton, they're working on something amazing with their supporters club, and I think there's a big possibility we could be playing at the Amex, against them, and that would be incredible for them.
Yeah, that'd be really
we're going to be at Villa Park. Villa are playing majority of their games at Villa Park, which is great for them. But I do get, there's another side to that argument, isn't there? Like, a certain type of atmosphere that you can have in a smaller stadium, and really bringing that atmosphere and bringing the noise, that could probably help the home team more. So I do get it. I really do get it. But I think if the game's going to grow, I think we probably need to see a bit more. I mean, I think Arsenal are probably only playing, out of the big teams, I think we're only playing Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and I think the others are in their home ground. So that's an interesting one, because you'd like to think the big clubs want to play at the big stadiums against, the noisiest fans. So it's interesting. But yeah, there's two arguments to that, and I do get both sides. But yeah, I think I'd like to see a bit more in the bigger stadiums.
I think it's just about a balance as well, isn't it? Like, so if you look at it from a home point of view, so if you're like, let's be honest and being realistic, getting a ticket to watch Arsenal, just say at Meadow Park, for example, it could be very, very hard.
Yeah.
But that's because of how popular and how great people like the supporters club and the red and white, and how much women's football has increased and improved, like, with a following. But then if you're saying, oh yeah, you can easily get a ticket, there's levels to it. So like you look at, was it the Chelsea game? Didn't we have like a few thousand as an away allocation
at Stamford Bridge? I think we had 3,000.
Yeah, so for me that's big numbers. Like, obviously where I go to the men's games as well, like, there's some men Premier League teams don't even give that away allocation.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I don't know if you agree, Dan. Obviously I know you follow the men as well, but I think when it comes to popularity and tickets, unfortunately people are going to just be like, unfortunately, either going to miss out or really struggle to get tickets.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think that is going to be the issue over the next few years, isn't it? Definitely, it's going to be a thing. The more and more the game grows, and until there is that regular thing of, some the other teams playing at Old Trafford or playing at Stamford Bridge on a regular basis, it is always going to be that issue. But I think it is the thing of familiarity for playing there. The more the women play at the Emirates, the more you get to recognise certain things about the stadium, and you know where to stand, and on the pitch. I know it was always a thing. I just remember going way back, because obviously I'm a lot older than you two. For Lee Dixon at Highbury, would always sort of say, he always knew there was a guy who stood on that row, and I think he thought, if I'm in line with him, I know I'm in the right position. And it's sort of silly things like that the players then pay attention to, that it sort of helps you to dominate being at home. And it should be a thing. There's no excuse, especially so teams like West Ham, why they don't play at their ground. The fact that they've never played at their main stadium is just like, it's ridiculous. So you would definitely think that us playing Manchester United this season, we should be playing them at Old Trafford. It is just that restriction from the clubs, or just that hesitancy for the moment, which they've really got to go into it and just let it grow.
Yeah, just get your views also, Farah, with you being associated with the supporters club. Obviously, last season the atmosphere block was block 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So now obviously is it block 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Block 10's obviously been involved in that as well. Are you excited that we've got a couple of blocks like that? And do you think it's all moving in the right direction, isn't it, for what we want?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I think when the initial idea was brought to us about we had an idea that we were outgrowing block 2 anyway. We thought there might be a shift, but when the club sort of we had a meeting with the club, and when they sort of told us their plans, and sort of the idea behind it was sort of the heart of the supporters club and the red and white, what the heart of that conversation and why we're moving. I thought, in a year what we've done, it was incredible. And I completely get, obviously the view is different than obviously halfway line and block 2 and stuff, but I think view is one thing, but the atmosphere is obviously what we all pride ourselves on. And as long as we're all together, a lot of us, I don't think we care where we sit, as long as we're all really together. But the North Bank, it just has that history, and the fact that the noise area is now going to be from 9, 10, 11, 12 is just incredible. And those blocks will be sold match by match tickets, if people want to be in and around us, which a lot of people are going to do. But that's obviously designed because as the supporters club keeps growing, we want to be able to eventually in a couple of years have the entire North Bank, the supporters club sort of area, which is amazing that idea is in their head, and how forward thinking everyone's being, and it gives people an opportunity to get involved and be involved with what we're doing and growing it. You got to remember the men's side has over 100 fan groups. The women's official supporters club is us, and we obviously cross over really well with the red and white. It's obviously where I started, and my sort of, I guess my baby is probably the red and white, but it's embraced really well with the supporters club. And I think we've organically crossed over really nicely, which was always kind of the plan. Everything goes through the supporters club, but the groups crossing over as organically as we have has been really nice, and that's why we've done this, and that's why we've achieved this. It's down to every single person that comes in, week out. So yeah, I think it's great that we have that, and the fact that the club envisioned that. To what I would say as well, obviously we all had visions when we started the red and white and what we wanted it to become, and obviously those visions have come to life, and that wouldn't have happened without the club's backing. But at the same time, vice versa, I don't think the club would be able to make these huge decisions and have as much as they're doing if they knew they didn't have us, and they didn't have that backing from what we do for fan engagement as well. So it's becoming a partnership, which is what I wanted, and we that's still we're still working on it, and we're still doing great things. But I think the way they are supporting it, I think has led them to make some really big decisions, and that's down to everyone that's involved. So yeah, it's nice to see, and again leading the way, and hopefully other clubs can definitely follow that and reach that.
No, I agree. I think that's quite well put. It's definitely all about how we're working together, and it's basically like a solid unit, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have any questions about that subject?
Do you envisage, or have you had any other clubs that have come to you for the supporters club and sort of saying, look, we love what you guys do and what you're doing? Is there any tips of advice you'd sort of give us for helping us sort of set up with a building?
For sure, the entire committee are so active and so involved, and everyone has their own conversations. There is a supporters club sort of group, and obviously on the during the season and on the pitch there we have our rivalries, but obviously off that we all want the game to grow. So yeah, advice. And yeah, I think again I use Brighton as an example because what the She Girls are trying to do and the conversations that we're having with them, they're at that position now where we probably our last few committees were probably at a few years ago, and they're gonna I think people to put it into perspective as well, it hasn't always been yes from the club. People we're going to celebrate 10 years of the supporters club going into this season, so I think it's you also have to put it into perspective that only in the last year we've really managed to get the yeses, and the doors have opened and we've worked, but it's you've got to bang down some doors before we get there, and that's what people are going to go through. But I think what Chelsea are doing, what City are doing, their supporters clubs are fantastic, and they're doing some amazing things, and I think that's just going to keep growing. But also the lower teams as well, lower in the table, I think what they're trying to do, they're definitely kind of looking at us, and yeah, we'll always help where we can, and give out advice. And the main thing is persistent. You just got to be persistent. You got to keep going, because you will get no's. You'll get loads of no's, and it happened to us as well before we pushed, and eventually. And also always remember that we have something so unique that a club will never ever have a huge understanding of, is the insight of the fan culture. Exactly what we need to be successful. The club can only get to a certain point and do so much, and that's where we come in, and that's why that partnership is so important, because certain things I don't think the club would be able to do if it wasn't for the insight that we have and what we need. And those were the conversations we had at the start of last season when we came into question. We had very honest conversations, and honest feedback, and the club have to listen to it if they want to progress as well.
Yeah, that's really good. We'll move on to a couple other stuff about Arsenal. So obviously, we've got the season will be starting. Well, the season's basically started, doesn't it? With pre-season. I want to mention about us obviously going out to America.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely amazing, and I think that's a big statement. Would you agree with that? Like, what's your views on? Because you've got Arsenal America as well, haven't you?
Yeah, Arsenal America, DC Armory. They've been incredible. I think this preseason is probably one of the best that I've seen. I think the marketing, the branding around it, the benefits they've given to all the fans that have travelled over, and then the American fans out there. I mean, these people they travel to London. I mean, I see these people in London more than I see other fans. Like, they travel all the time to come and see them play here. So it's lovely for them to get sort of these types of little benefits and open training sessions and Q&A, because they don't get to see the girls all the time. So I think it's been really, really successful. It's been really amazing to see how much Arsenal have done for the fans out there, because they're a massive part of the growth. And I think international fans, I think you forget what they go through to come and to watch the girls play here. So yeah, it's been a real success, and that's credit to the club and everyone working behind the scenes, because I think the content, the branding, the marketing, I think everything that they've done has been a real success. And I think it started from sort of when they went to Australia, like really kind of getting that partnership with the Australian Gooners, and obviously you got Steph and Caitlin, and the Tillies is a huge thing right now, and having that crossover was really smart. And I think here as well, playing Spirit, and then obviously now playing Chelsea, I think it's going to be a real, playing Chelsea, whether it's a friendly or not, it's going to be it's going to be so competitive, it's going to be so full on, and that's what we want. But yeah, I think it's been great, and the feedback that I've got from the American Gooners, Arsenal America, and DC, they've had the best experience. So yeah, we worked on a few things. We've tried to share some content as much as we can. Obviously, we had people from our group that went out as well, and from what I've heard, they had a great time. So yeah, I think it's probably been one of the best pre-seasons that we didn't really have one last year, did we? So I think it was definitely needed. So yeah, hopefully it puts them into good fitness to come back against Rangers, because obviously, you know, we have to qualify for Europe.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And I think what people sometimes we forget is that when we complain, we've got to watch a game at 2 or 3 in the morning because they're playing in, say, America or Australia.
Yeah.
Like, they have to do the same for when we're playing at the times that like we kick off. So it's all about understanding and having that like understanding that the commitment what the international fans show is quite big. And I don't think we ever have friendlies against Chelsea, do we? So that's definitely a big bit.
Sort of a bit of a question to both of you. Do you sort of see, though? I mean, obviously, you know, I would sort of say Arsenal are over there testing the water for this season to think, yeah, next season it might be a bit more of it. But could you see the thing where they're going over there in a sort of, I don't know, like a World Club tournament, and they're actually going over there for more competitive matches, or that there's some sort of, I don't know, so like a World League or something like that? But you know, they're actually going over there for a longer period, maybe somewhere in the middle of the season or something for a little thing. You sort of see the game growing, incorporating different countries and that.
I mean, I think it's definitely it definitely sounds like that would be a great thing, but I think scheduling wise and what a mess the scheduling is for the women's for the girls is already so crazy, especially with obviously a tournament happening every year almost. So scheduling wise, I don't know how they would fit it in. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think could work really well. But at the same time, you know, we are seeing more and more injuries. There seems like they've had a good rest this year, not being in the Olympics, which I think has done them a massive favor, because honestly, that Olympics was just so intense to watch some of those games and going into 120 minutes. Honestly, I'm actually glad none of our girls were, well, yeah, except for Steph and Caitlin, but like in terms of kind of like GB not being there, I think was a bit of a blessing, to be honest, because they had a bit of a rest. So I think scheduling needs to improve before we, you know, start talking about world tournaments and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely as the game grows, I can't see why not. But yeah, I think scheduling is a big thing right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, especially like what you were saying about the injuries, Farah, as well. I don't know. Like, I think it could be a regular pre-season thing. I don't see why that won't be happening. I don't see us going into like another league or competitive stuff, or like not yet anyway. Plus, because we just need them to rest, and like you said, it's actually nice to see Arsenal, the girls, having a pre-season, because like obviously last season we didn't, and that cost us really quite valuably, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Going into the games, obviously, going into Rangers, at least we would have had some pre-season.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know it's probably quite a vague question, but an easier one. But what's kind of your ambitions for this season, either from the supporters club or even just as a fan, really?
Two different answers for both of those. But I think as a fan, you know, like any Arsenal fan, I go into every year thinking, you know, we're going to win the league. But I think this year, more than anything, I think it's quite crucial that we push for that league. We need to be up there in the last few days of the season and pushing for the title. I don't think anything less than that will be a success, in my opinion. I think the signings that have been made, that group on paper, they need to get more consistent if they're going to push City and Chelsea for sure. And they have to, you know, step up if they want to get close to those two teams this season. But Arsenal have to be, that league has to come back to North London, and it needs to come back very soon. Otherwise, we're going to go through another transition, because I don't know if the manager will be here if he doesn't win some big silverware this year. Yeah. So I think there's a lot on the line for everybody. Obviously, you know, you don't want to put the pressure out there, but it is getting to that time now. You know, we haven't won the league since 2019. We've had two, you know, back-to-back Conti Cup finals. It's not good enough for this football club and what this fan base is about. This fan base deserves to be at Wembley, you know, we should be pushing for the title. We're playing 11 games at the Emirates. Like, they now have to go out and now perform and you know, give us something hugely to cheer about, because we saw last season, like, the expectations are so high, and when the girls do throw it away, or we lose a game that we shouldn't be losing, it's, you know, we're a very opinionated fan base. It gets intense. There's emotions run high, and everyone is sort of out for each other. We wind each other up. We, you know, because we're so passionate. But I think this year, you know, FA Cup and the league is my dream. I would love to take this fan base to Wembley. Like, honestly, that would be incredible. We've seen what we're like at cup finals, but can you imagine, you know, the red and white, you know, the sea of red and white at Wembley would be incredible.
Yeah. There's a very diplomatic way of putting it about our fan base.
Yeah, I mean it in a good way, but I think everyone can agree, you know, emotions, you know, it does run high, and you know, the way social media and everything is now, you know, everyone's going to give their opinions, which they're entitled to do. But you know, I think we have the squad. Like, honestly, I think we genuinely have the squad, but it's the hope that kills you as a Gooner. I think we all know that. So, but yeah, that's my personal ambition. The league and the FA Cup. That's what I want.
Yeah. It's like a roller coaster at Arsenal, like, just generally. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you, like, obviously the players we brought in, do you think this will enable people like Russo to take that, like, finally push on? Because I honestly think we were seeing her playing as a proper, like, classic number 9 towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I don't, me personally, I don't see why she can't challenge for the Golden Boot. Do you agree with that?
I agree. I think it's her season. I think it's going to be her team next year. Like, it's going to be down to her. And I think, you know, I don't think she was quite that at United, and then she's had in my opinion, a very successful first season at Arsenal. And I think this year I think this could be her team, her season. And you know, just seeing a few glimpses with her link up with Kavaji, and you know, just seeing a little bit of flair coming into it. That goal she scored, I know it was a friendly, but she just looked so confident, just taking that ball on and just, you know, taking those sort of risks. And she just seems in her element, you know, and she seems like she's in the shape of her life right now as well, and she seems like she's really enjoying being at Arsenal. So yeah, I think this year could be Russo's year, and I think this is going to be like her team next year. I think she'll be driving it this season.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, Dan, before we wrap up?
No, I agree. I think, definitely Russo for the Golden Boot. Why not? I think, I mean, she even proved it last game, didn't she? So she took them goals, like she owns that number 9 shirt, like she's the striker that, she's confident. And I think she has definitely grown from United, because she wasn't playing full 90 minutes all the time, was she there? And she was maybe sometimes a bit more on the right. So I think she's developed, and we just want to see her keep developing. And definitely Golden Boot at the end of the season to go with the treble, just for Andrew.
There you go.
Like you say, the hope it kills you.
Yeah.
But it's been really interesting. Thank you for all that, Farah. That's been really good. Found that quite interesting. Dan, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
If anybody that is watching and isn't a member, how could someone go around about joining the supporters club?
Yeah, so it's on our socials. We've posted everything up, but also, if you do want to join up and you don't have the link, just drop us a DM or just drop us a tweet, and we can obviously drop the link over. But it is on our Twitter and it is on our Instagram as well. So paid membership closes 30th of November. We're closing it, and then obviously the free membership is open. I think we're going to keep it all year round. I'm not sure. We just depending on numbers, because they are coming in thick and fast. So we will have to just manage it. But paid membership will close November 30th.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you, obviously, everyone, for watching. Really appreciate your support. We'll have another show next week with another special guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, because it's a surprise, and it means you've got to tune in to watch it then. So yeah, thank you, Farah.
No worries.
Hope you have a good weekend. Dan,
Yeah,
thank
you
you for
too.
that again.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
So, hope everyone has a good weekend, and hopefully we can beat Chelsea on Sunday.
Let's
But yeah,
go.
all have a lovely weekend and bank holiday, and take care. Good
See you
night.
guys.
See ya.